Welcome back to Up the Villa. Villa fans, Fulham 1, Aston Villa 3. If you are new around here, make sure you are subscribing. Let's get those subscribers going up after this victory. Let's have a light target of 1,000. So if you are buzzing that Aston Villa have beat Fulham, smash the likes and comment your thoughts in the comment section down below. I am buzzing, over the moon with that, because I was a little bit wary going into this game. We'd spoke all week about the Fulham threat, the fact that they were unbeaten so far at home at Craven Cottage. And they were playing really good. They were coming off the back of a loss against Man City, but they'd played really well in that game. So I was a little bit wary, but I was really pleased with the Aston Villa performance. I think we really grew into the game. There's plenty of positives. And I think the big positive before we even kicked the ball was the Aston Villa bench. The bench was Gauchi, Konsa, Matson, Kamara, McGinn, Barkley, Buendia, Jadon and Duran. And that bench is just absolutely unbelievable. It's got depth, it's got quality, it's got a defence on it, it's got a solid midfielder on it, it's got creativity, it's got goals, it's got youth, and it's just got balance. And that was absolutely amazing to see. So, the game as a whole, I think we're going to go a bit in depth on this one because there's no debrief, because we've got the quick turnaround 2 days until we're playing against Bologna in the Champions League. So, I'll try and go quite in depth on this one. My overriding thoughts, and then we'll go into the game out panned out, are positivity. I'm feeling really happy. If we all take a look at the Premier League table, we are very close to the top, which is fantastic. And make no two ways about this, whether we played poor and won but still won, it would have been a really big result. But I actually think that for large parts of this game we did play really well and we controlled the game, and I think that's a positive. I think some players had really good performances as well, which was pleasing. And I think the substitutions tell a lot. Jadon coming on, being Villa's first substitution, I think that shows the faith in which Unai Emery has got within Jadon. And I think we were creating chances, we were getting into really good areas. And I think we were the better team over the course of the 90-minute performance. I think the first 15-ish minutes, I think we looked a little bit. And I think we always knew that Fulham were gonna come out quickly. Any of you that watched the opposition preview, Jack mentioned that Fulham were going to come out and be really lively early on, and that's what they were. And when that ball went over Pau Torres and he allowed it to bounce and Jimenez scored, I was thinking, what an awful start to the game. You know, it was really bad defending from Pau to allow that ball to bounce, to give Jimenez that chance to get on the end of it and try and make something happen, and Pau allows him to get the wrong side of him and Jimenez scores, and you're starting to think this is going to be a tough one for Villa, because they're playing well, they're a good side, they're creative, they create chances, they are, you know, lively all over the pitch. And I was thinking, oh no, what's going on here now, Villa? But we managed to get back in the game pretty quickly through Morgan Rogers. You know, probably not the cleanest of finishes from him, but it's deflected and it's gone in, and we get in at 1-1 at that period. And I'm starting to think, right, now, if we just compose ourselves, then we will be able to dictate and control the play. I think they have a corner just after we scored as well, where Jimenez peels off Ramsey and they have a big opportunity. And then from that moment there, I felt like Villa really did control the game. I think there was parts where we were growing into it. We were really getting into those areas that we really want to start exploiting. I think if we go to the tactical pad and we have a look at those areas that I'm really mentioning, and you're thinking of Ramsey, you're thinking of Rodgers, the areas that they were getting, I think they had a really good combination in this game. So if I just share the screen with you now, and I'm talking about this link up through here. Ramsey, we'd got Rodgers in these areas, really sort of getting into those pockets. Digne was a massive threat in the first half as well. And it just wasn't quite falling for us, was it? There was a little bit of a loose touch on the edge of the box at times. There was just a little bit of poor decision making, but I felt like this area we were really starting to dominate against Fulham, especially in the first half. We give away a penalty, which I think it's a really tough one for me because I don't actually really think that it was a penalty. I've seen it a couple of times, and I think it's one of these where the ball's gone over Matty Cash, and as Matty Cash has turned round and turned his body to turn round, his arm's out a little bit, and the ball's been, I think it's headed or hit into his arm, and he's just got a bit of like a trailing arm, and I think if you watch it, that movement when he moves round and he's a little bit like this, I'm not sure we should be giving penalties for that. I mean, does his arm go up to it and does he move it away, or is it the fact that his arm's out there? So, you know, it's really, I think it's a bit of a harsh one, if I'm being honest. Like, I think it's one of those where a lot of the times those aren't given, but maybe I'm being Villa biased, I don't know. But I'd love to hear what your thoughts were on that penalty incident. And then Emi Martinez steps up. And it's a wonderful save from Pereira. He doesn't really get a clean hit on it. Martinez holds his nerve, goes in the right direction. And on the clipboard, I've got writ here that after that penalty, I've got all Villa before and after the penalty. And we started again to get Rodgers and Ramsey in good areas. But I think what was letting us down was just our touch at times. And I think sometimes you've got to give a bit of credit to Fulham in the sense of they were pressing us well. They were in our faces. They didn't allow us much time on the ball. You know, Bailey was getting on the ball in the first half and it was just dwelling on it a bit too much. There was a couple of times where he's on the far side and he's sort of trying to do a bit too much rather than just quickly get his head up and pass the ball away. And, you know, I thought Rodgers, his touch at times. There was a couple of times when Ramsey could have found Watkins. Just that decision making, that sharpness, just being that sort of like that quick fire thinking, I think probably let us down in the first half. Rodgers has a wonderful opportunity from great work from Ramsey. So we did create ample amounts of opportunities, especially in the first half. If we go and have a look at the first half stats then, and we look at the momentum bar of the game, the momentum bar's on the left here, and you can see that Villa, like what I've got written down here actually, before the penalty, and you can see the penalty with the goal and the X, it's all Villa, isn't it, before and after? So I think that shows that we were pretty good in that first half. If we go to some of the first half stats as well, you can see that Villa had 57% possession. We had 2 big chances. We had 5 total shots. We had 246 passes. And I think what I noticed in the first half is Fulham were winning a little bit more of their duels. So I think that probably shows that they were snapping in us and their press was working. They got 52% of their duels and we'd got 48%. So I think all in all, I was pretty happy with that first half because we were away from home. We were getting opportunities. I felt like we just needed to just sharpen up a little bit. And then I just felt like the opportunity was there. I felt like substitutions were going to be massive for Aston Villa. So second half, it sort of was a little bit more of the same, really. I think a player that's probably going to get a bit of stick is Bailey, and I think we've got to be careful here, and we've got to realise that we've won the game, and it's all about backing our players and not just as soon as one has a bit of a bad game, and I would admit that his form's not the best, but I think we've got to keep backing him. I think you saw when he came off, he went straight to Emery. They had a little bit of a chat, arm round him, Emery showing his man management, and I just think, you know, Bailey, I think the one thing about Bailey is he does always want the ball, and I think that's positive. So I think he's got to sort of just ease his way in at times and just try and be a bit more direct. I think he's slowing it down a little bit too much. So I don't think, well, personally, I don't really want to hammer Bailey. I want to get behind him and I want to keep pushing him to find his form. So yeah, I think that's where I'm at really with Bailey, but he did have some bright sparks. I think in the second half he played that wonderful pass to Rodgers as well. So yeah, I think Bailey didn't have the best of games, but I think it's about getting behind him and it's a long season, and if he's not in the greatest of forms now, then there's enough time this season to find his form. We know how good he is, and he'll be able to get to a level, I have no doubt, towards the end of the season. And then the goal. Now, make no ways about this. That header is world class. That header is world class. Now, I know the tactic that we've done in this game. Near post, near post, near post, near post, near post. We've hammered the near post. And finally, it's worked. And that header is unbelievable. And I think sometimes headers don't get as much praise as sort of a strike would get, or a shot, or a volley. But the way he's had to generate the power on that, and we know he's got that arcing head that he can get right behind it and head it. I think the Bournemouth one last season was a really good example. And I just think that header was just immense. And it needs to be spoken about a lot because it's a brilliant, brilliant header. And that tactic of the near post has clearly paid off, and it's worked, really. We then also have that next opportunity with a Morgan Rogers ball that was through to Ollie Watkins, and Watkins gets on the end of it. We saw it against Bayern Munich. We spoke about it in the analysis before the game, that they'll leave those two defenders, and it's worked again. So I think it was a great ball from Rogers. Anderson's been sent off. Diop then comes on, and Diop then scores an own goal. So I don't know whether that's a new stat between a player that's come on and put the ball in the back of the net, in the back of his own net. So I think that those, were some of the bright sparks in that game. I think another talking point for me is Jadon, and Jadon was Villa's first sub, and that speaks volumes of how I think Emery feels about Jadon, that he's the first sub. He could have bought on Barkley, could have bought on McGinn, could have bought on Maatsen, could have bought on Duran, and he goes to Jadon, and it shows that the amount of faith that he's got in Jadon, which I think is brilliant. And then I will say that obviously he's now got a red card, so he misses a game, and I think while Bailey's form probably isn't the best, it's a good opportunity for Jadon to make a claim, and now he misses the next game. And was it a red? No. Was it a second yellow? Don't really think it was. It's a harsh one. It's a little nudge. It's not a second yellow, is it? I don't think it's a second yellow. So yeah, I think if we have a look at some of the second half stats then, I think that'll be good to see what we did in the second half. And I kind of feel like we did well at controlling the game when they got a player sent off. I think sometimes teams, and there are teams in the past that have conceded when a team have gone down to 10 men, but we kept our discipline, we were composed, we showed organisation, we saw the game out pretty well. So, I think we did okay, really. I think we sat back a little bit, and I think this is probably what you can see in the possession stats. But I think we were really comfortable. So second half, we had 38% possession. We had 156 passes. We had 9 shots. So I just think second half we were composed, organised. We sort of allowed them to come at us a little bit, which allowed more space for us to pick into. And I think this shows that the adaptability of Villa, in the sense of they've got a player sent off. We're not going gun-ho. We're not going 100 mile an hour to get another goal, which then could leave us with the opportunity to concede. And then the pressure builds, and it's 3-2, and then they're 1 goal away from getting back in it. So we really kept them at arm's length, which I think was really good. And you could see how involved Emery's on the sidelines, that we're winning 3-1 and they've got a player sent off, and he's still like 100 mile an hour in their faces with high intensity. So, I just thought it was a really good away performance, because it's such a difficult place to go to. There won't be that many away wins away at Fulham. So, Craven Cottage is such a difficult place to go to. They're a team that have been coached really, really well. And I think for Villa to go there and score 3 goals and look pretty at ease, I think, barring the Jimenez header and barring the goal that he scores, They haven't really created a lot. You look at their big threat down the left of Robinson. We kept Smith Rowe quiet. So Adama was pretty quiet as well. So all of their biggest threats were really kept pretty quiet, and that's a testament to Aston Villa as well. If we have a look now at the Aston Villa average positions, we'll be able to see averagely where our team were positioned. And I think these can tell, you know, a big tale of the game. And there's width there. There's midfield dominance. There's a screening between Onana and Matty Cash. Matty Cash's position was really disciplined. He knew when to go. He knew when he needed to sit a bit deeper. You can see that he was doing a bit more of a defensive role. We've got Onana in more of that screening role. I thought Tielemans was exceptional at winning those tackles. Those duels were really good. If we have a look at Luca Dean now, look at where his heat map is, that width on that left-hand side. We really need to now start talking about, is Luca Dean one of the best left-backs in the Premier League? That is how well he's playing. His delivery, that touch that he's got now, it's like a glancing touch that he does. The glancing touch that takes him and feeds him forward and enables him to set up that cross. Fantastic. You know, his balls into the box were really good. I think we were looking for a few too many cutbacks today. I think we've obviously been working on cutbacks, but I think at times we need to find that Ollie Watkins at that back post and fire that ball across, you know, the 6-yard box as well. Ollie Watkins led the line well. Rodgers' second half really grew into it, which I thought was really good. The Fulham average positions as well. You can see we've obviously got Sanderberg screening there, back three. They've got width there from Traore. I think his game didn't help Fulham because I think what it enabled us to do was really get at Tete. So in that first half, when I was talking about Rodgers, Ramsey, Luca Dean, that gap between Tete and Adama Traore was so big. Tete got no support, and we were able really to exploit Tete. And if you look at where Tete's work has been done in this game, it's a lot in that defensive area as well. So I think if I had to pick my man of the match, it would be Luca Dean. I think if we have a look at some of Luca Dean's stats here now. So he won 1 of his 4 aerials, 87% passing accuracy, 2 block shots, and we have got 3 clearances, 1 block shot, 1 interceptions. I thought, again, he was a massive threat for Villa. I thought Youri Tielemans was exceptional again, 91% passing accuracy. We've got 4 out of 5 long balls. He's won 5 out of his 8 duels, 1 out of his 1 aerials. He's got 1 big chance created. He's got 1 assist. I thought he was fantastic as well. And a player that's probably going to go under the radar in this game from a Villa point of view would be Onana. I thought he mopped up everything. I thought it was a really organised and assured performance from Onana that's probably going to go under the radar. 94% passing accuracy. 4 out of his 5 duels were won. He'd got 3 interceptions, 2 tackles. I thought he was fantastic. Ollie Watkins led the line really well. Martinez, the penalty save, fantastic. You can see the calmness that he brings to this Villa side. His presence is just second to none. It's exceptional, really. So I thought Martinez was unbelievable as well. That penalty save, again, he's kept us in the game. He's done really well. So if we have a little look now at Villa's passing network, we can see the biggest networks are the thicker lines. So we've got Carlos to Cash, we've got Onana and Tielemans. But again, everything that's integral to Aston Villa is Youri Tielemans. He's in there. There's just that connection with absolutely everybody. He's got a connection with Rodgers, with Watkins, with Ramsey, with Digne, with Pau, with Onana. The only one he didn't really have a connection with was Leon Bailey. But I think this shows us perfectly what we were about today. We wanted Matty Cash to stay in a defensive area. We'd got width with Bailey, with Digne. There's an openness to us that's showing width. And I think there's a real good connection with Rodgers and Watkins as well. If we have a little look at the Fulham network, you can see that a lot of it is sort of in a defensive area, and we've really nullified them and made them quite narrow. We've isolated Traore, and we've not really allowed Iwobi to get into attacking areas and Pereira to get into attacking areas as well. So I'm just really pleased with this performance, Villa fans, because I think it's a difficult place to go to. We're doing really well. I think if we look at the Premier League table now, which is probably going to change depending on when you're watching this. If you're watching it straight after the game, then we're only a point behind Liverpool. If you're watching it the next day, then I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. So, look at that table now. 4th place, 17 points, level on points with Arsenal. That they're playing at the minute, aren't they? They've got Wolves. We've got Man City who are level on points with. Liverpool have got Chelsea. So, we're 3 points in front of Chelsea. We are 6 points in front of... we're 6 in front of Newcastle. How did Newcastle get on? Let's have a little look at how Newcastle got on. Newcastle lost as well, so that's a positive from a Villa point of view. But we're where we need to be. We're in a good place now going into the Bologna game. That sets us up really well. We've got 3 home games in a row now, which is really good. We want to be at Villa Park. We want to be winning football matches. And I just think that bench for Villa is just exceptional. I think I'm a little bit disappointed with Jadon getting the red. I want him to play. I want him to feature. I want him to keep pushing Bailey. But, all in all, I think everybody should be really pleased with that performance that we've put on. So I want to know, who's your man of the match? How are you feeling as a Villa fan? If you are all still watching by now, which I hope you are, I want 1,000 likes. I want you all to hit the subscribe button. And then we're going to start our Bologna content tomorrow. And we've got an opposition Bologna fan on Monday, which is a brilliant episode. It is absolutely brilliant. So I can't wait for that one to drop. So everybody, up the Villa, get in, 3 points, love it.